A bombshell was dropped on Wednesday over the corruption of the FBI during the 2016 presidential election concerning the Steele Dossier. And it's far worse than we ever dreamed it would be. And it looks like things are going to be far worse for the FBI as well. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to RPW Media. My name's Rich. Let's get on with it. An FBI analyst by the name of Brian Auten was the first witness to testify in the trial of Igor Danchenko, who was the Russian primary subsource for the totally debunked Steele Dossier that the FBI used to obtain a FISA warrant when they lied to a FISA court and said that that document was verified. It was never verified. During his testimony, Special Counsel John Durham asked Auten if there was any proof of the accuracy of the Steele Dossier, and he was referencing the date of the first FISA application to surveil former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page. Auten replied simply, no. Steele's reports were eventually compiled into the first dossier that was published by BuzzFeed News in January of 2017, even though BuzzFeed said that they didn't verify it, but they ran with the story anyway, because Orange Man bad. Now get this. Hillary Clinton paid for Danchenko to give the garbage information to Christopher Steele, and the number 4 man in Obama's Department of Justice by the name of Bruce Orr, he told everybody involved not to rely on the dossier because it was garbage and unverified. Don't use that to get the FISA warrant, but they did anyway. In fact, Fusion GPS, who was also hired by Hillary Clinton's campaign, hired Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie Orr, to compile the dossier with the garbage information that Danchenko provided. Now, nothing that is listed in the dossier ever happened. Everyone who's anyone admits that now. Even Christopher Steele said at the time that he couldn't verify even 50% of the dossier because none of it was accurate. It was garbage. So in the end, it turns out that Danchenko is the actual author of the dossier. Now, he himself hired a bunch of people to gather the phony garbage information, but he's the guy who ran the operation for compiling the dossier data to hand over to Steele. Now, thanks to the hard work of John Durham, Danchenko is now on trial. So the first witness in Danchenko's trial is this FBI analyst, Auten, and he provided bombshell testimony that the FBI offered Steele up to $1 million to corroborate the false garbage allegations made in a series of reports to the Bureau over the course of several months in 2016. The analyst said Steele never received any money because he couldn't prove the allegations were true. Now, that's according to CNN. According to Auten's testimony, the FBI felt that they didn't have enough evidence to get a FISA warrant to spy on the Trump campaign. So the FBI, under Barack Obama, used our tax dollars to pay Christopher Steele, a foreign ex-spy, to corroborate what they already knew was phony information in the first place. Now, there's no other way to look at this than the FBI did all of this to try to trash the Trump campaign, to interfere in the 2016 election to help Hillary Clinton win. Now, you remember all the misinformation, fake news media analysts and their pundits who told us that Watergate was so much worse than this Spygate thing? Well, as it turns out, this is far worse than Watergate. This denies belief in a benevolent being. So Barack Obama's FBI, under the leadership of James Comey, used U.S. tax dollars to interfere in a presidential election. This is now corroborated by one of the FBI's own. So the FBI tried to deliberately destroy the opposition party's candidate for president. Now, you know, this is why Trump declassified those documents and took them back to Mar-a-Lago. The documents that Joe Biden's FBI wanted and what they seized were documents that had all the evidence against the FBI and the DOJ for their Operation Crossfire Hurricane. Starting to make sense now, isn't it? So let's be clear here. Christopher Steele is a former British spy who was directly hired by the Hillary Clinton campaign, and he went out and hired this Danchenko guy, the Russian, to provide dirt on Trump to make it appear that Trump colluded with the Russians during the election. Remember that? Russian collusion, Donald Trump. So to get this straight, Hillary Clinton is the one who colluded with the Russians to get garbage dirt on her election opponent to claim that he was the one who colluded with the Russians. You can't make this stuff up. Do you know how many left-wing Democrat morons out there still believe that it was Donald Trump who colluded with the Russians? There's a lot of them. So Danchenko did his job and got all the garbage that they wanted on Trump, and he delivered that to Chris Steele. The FBI then wanted Steele to corroborate that garbage and to claim that it was real because Christopher Steele had some gravitas from being a former British spy. It would have lent credibility to their argument to get the FISA warrant, okay? So Steele put the dossier together, sold it to Clinton, who got Fusion GPS to compile it and write it in a better format by using Bruce Orr's wife, Nellie, whose specialty is Russia. This would make a blockbuster movie, but I don't know if anybody would believe it. I mean, it really happened, though. Now, to recap, the FBI then went back to Christopher Steele and offered him $1 million so that he would corroborate that it was real. And to his credit, Steele didn't take the money, but it's probably because he knew that there could be repercussions against him later on when everybody figured out that this was all one big giant lie. But see, they never thought Hillary was going to lose. So all of this would have been swept under the rug. Now, Andy McCabe, who was the deputy FBI director, once testified before Congress that without the dossier, they would have never gotten the FISA warrant. So now you know how important it was to get that FISA warrant. They had to use the dossier because they had nothing else. They had no dirt on Trump, okay? So an even worse part of this is that after Christopher Steele said that he couldn't corroborate the dossier, the FBI went ahead anyway and used it to get the FISA warrant. So Bruce Orr warned the FBI to not use the dossier because it was filled with garbage. And he knew it because his wife wrote it based on the garbage that Danchenko gave to the deal, okay? So the FBI knowingly lied to a FISA court because at the top of a FISA application, it says the word verified, meaning everything you enter on this FISA warrant as evidence for the warrant, you are claiming that that data was verified. Well, they knew it wasn't verified. They couldn't even pay $1 million to a guy to verify it for them, okay? So the FBI realized that they couldn't take down Trump with the phony dossier because there were just too many things in it that just didn't make sense. Like the PP tape, for instance. Anyone who knows anything at all about Trump knows that he's a germaphobe, and he would have never allowed a Russian lady of the night to urinate on him, and it's just funny on the face of it if it wasn't disgusting, okay? So they then went ahead and tapped his Trump Tower computers, and they faked data in the logs to make it appear that there was a communication going on between the Trump Tower servers and the Russian Alpha Bank. And none of that ever happened. And now we also know that as of March of 2017, the FBI actually hired Danchenko as a paid FBI informant known as a confidential human source. And the FBI knew that Danchenko would just continue to give them garbage lies about Trump. So the FBI paid Danchenko to continue feeding them Russian disinformation in order to frame Trump for something that he never did, which was colluding with Russia. That's something that we now know that Hillary Clinton actually did and paid for. The most incredible thing is that we now know that all of this happened, and yet no one yet has gone to prison. That's it. Thanks. We'll see you in the next one.